I guess what are some things to look for a guy to be looking for as far as like signs that a woman might be good in bed, or right, signs that a girl might be, I don't know, like what's kind of going through a girl's head, maybe her own insecurities, and kind of bring us into that world so we can have a better understanding of what we're doing as we get into the bedroom too, you know?
Yes. I recently was emailed by, my favorite title that I call myself is Trusted Hot Sex Advisor to Millions. That's kind of my tagline. When I try to tone it down, I call it intimacy wellness, because some people are freaked out by sex, but thank God you are not. And we always have such a great time. So a trusted hot sex advisor is like a Dear Abby of sex. And guys and women, people across the gender spectrum write to me all the time with their most private questions, and I answer them. And I've been doing it for like 15 years. So I've really seen the things that happen and go on with people when their relationships start, they're in the middle, they're at the end, they fall apart, they get divorced, they get back to, like all this stuff. And a guy wrote to me recently and he said, we're an older couple and I'm dating a woman and I really, really like her, but she feels like she's too old to have sex anymore. She's kind of past having sex. She doesn't really want to have it. And she kind of feels like it's shameful and wrong at her age to have sex and that she's never really had good sex. What do I do? And I said, turn her into your friend and get a real girlfriend, because you'll never change her. There is a certain percentage of women, for many, many reasons, mostly religious repression, who are never going to be good in bed, who are never going to get over themselves, who are never going to enjoy lovemaking. That being said, so you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And you don't have to give her up if you like her, but you're not going to ever change her. And then there are women who are just inexperienced. And I always say that couples that play together stay together, especially in the bedroom. You learn together. The great thing about sex is that it's totally different in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, and your 90s. And you continue to be, you can, if you put your attention on it. And if you're watching us right now, you are one of the people who wants to have lifelong learning about your sexuality. You want to grow and expand. You're open to learning. And that's about 15% of the population. It's not everybody. Those are the sexual seekers, the ones who are like, oh, this is like personal development, but for my sex life. The more I learn, the better I get. The better I get, the better sex is. The better sex is, the more I have. The more I have, the better I get. I call that the upward pleasure spiral, and you can get on it and you can stay on it. I'm pushing 60 years old. I'll be 60 this year.
Wow,
I've been married,
I would have never guessed.
I've been married with my husband almost 30 years. We met 30 years this year, and my sex life has never been better. I've never been juicier. I've never come better. I've never been hotter. I've never had better orgasms. I've never had better intimate connection with my husband. We've never had more fun together. So it can keep getting better. It never ends. It keeps getting better your whole life long if you take care of your health. So, and you have a good attitude. So how do you know she's good in bed? She dresses sexy, number one. Number two, she likes dirty jokes and she doesn't mind talking about sex. She's open to it. She's excited to date you. She likes to kiss. She likes and feels comfortable having a safe sex talk with you before having sex with you. She talks about contraception, STDs. Are you an anti-masker or a masker? The things that she needs to know to keep herself protected. She thinks you're handsome or she wouldn't be with you. She likes when you touch her. She doesn't pull away. She comes toward you. She has sex with you. And the way to keep up with a woman who has these things, it's like, okay, you've got one that's good in bed. You've got one that's got potential. You've got one that's got a good attitude. She's not, like she hasn't been messed up by religiosity or society or whatever, or trauma. How do you keep up with her? Variety. Yeah. Go back to 7 stimulating sex positions. Go back to Dirty Talk book. Go back to the things we talked about in the other videos. And the soulmate embrace. Hold her, play with her, pick her up, move her, buy her lingerie, take her to different rooms in the house and have sex with her outside, have sex with her in the car, have sex with her in the desert. You live in Arizona.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you must do, is bring the variety and the novelty, because desire is an equation. Variety and novelty, fresh and new, plus security and safety. You're not going to hurt her. You're not going to get her pregnant by accident. You care about STDs. You know, you love her. If she farts, you don't care. Safety equals desire. That is what gets her wanting you. If you're just safe and you're boring, she gets bored. If you're just wild and crazy, she can't really relax and doesn't trust you. You know, like you always hear about the bad boys that we love to have sex with. Well, we love to have sex with them once in a while, but they're not the guy we want to have sex with every night. So the bad boys, they're like a match flame that burns out. You want the steady state flame. You want the hunka burning love. You bring variety and security and you get desire.
I see. So when you are talking about variety, can that also apply to in the moment? And I just know, like, for me, like one of the things that I would always do to last a little bit longer and keep the party going was switching it up. So if I felt like I was about to come, I would kind of, you know, switch up the position, or I would just go down on her or something like that, where we're just switching up variety kind of moment to moment. Is that also applied to what you're talking about?
Yes. You don't need to just get to intercourse and keep having it. One of the best things about languorous lovemaking is just seeing what's good in the moment, trying lots of new things, taking a break and hugging each other and drinking some water, having some strawberries and some grapes, kissing a little bit more. Oh, could you rub my feet for a while? Sure, baby, I can rub your feet. And then she's like, oh, can you eat me now? Sure, baby, I can eat you now. You know, that's where she doesn't feel so much pressure. And then I'll say one more thing about the lasting long enough. There's a technique that I teach called the me breath. It stands for much ecstasy. And it's really about how you can begin to gas and break your urge to ejaculate so you can last as long as she wants you to, until she's ready for you to come. And then she's just like, I'm ready, baby. Can you come for me? And you can. And it's a learned technique that uses a specific breath, a specific squeeze of your pubococcygeus muscle, your PC muscle, combined with a specific pelvic rocking. I'll give you a link to it and I'll definitely get the program for you. It's like learning a golf swing. You know how when you learn a golf swing, you're like, you got to hold the club right. You got to get the angle. You got to look at where you're going. You got to get the swing back. You got to rotate your midline, and then you got to follow through. It's that easy to learn the me breath. It's literally like learning to drive. You got to gas, you got to brake, you look at the rear view mirror, you got to use the steering wheel. It's a learnable skill. And then you can gas and brake your ejaculation. So you can start to have full body, male, multiple orgasms. And when you start having full body orgasms, because you don't need to ejaculate to have an orgasm, and you're showing her how much pleasure she's creating, it's basically like a tuning fork. When you have two tuning forks and you hit one against an object, and then it starts to make the other one vibrate when you put it close to it. That's what you're doing. When you're turned on, you're turning her on, and then it's expanding her orgasmic pleasure. But if you're just constantly holding yourself back, if you can't just, like, when she's like, harder, go faster, deeper, and you can't do it. Yeah. You got to learn how to do that, because sometimes she needs you to get it. And so the me breath is the answer to that, which is fantastic. And I didn't know we were going to talk about that, but I'll give you the links to the me breath too. That's awesome. I'll definitely set you up with that. I published that by my friend Jim Benson. He's a men's sexual trainer. He trains Tantra teachers all over the world on this technique.
Wow, that's awesome. And I guess I'm speaking from experience. Is it true that with the me breath, if you can, almost hold yourself off longer to where you're still having pleasure, but you're able to control when you do it, isn't it true that the longer you kind of allow yourself to hold it off, the bigger the release?
It can be. It depends on so many factors, including like how much sleep you've had, how hydrated you are. I mean, there really are a lot of factors for that. You know, a lot of guys like to do what's called edging to kind of, you know, ride the edge and last and last and last and then
Got
come.
it.
But there's 15 kinds of male orgasm. Men are just
So
used
edging
to.
is different than the me
Yeah.
breath.
Edging is
Okay.
different. Yeah, edging is totally different because edging is holding yourself right to the edge. Now, you actually do edging to learn how to do the me breath. It's one of the ways you learn how to get to what's called the point of no return. On a scale of 1 to 10, there's a place where you cross the threshold and the train has left the station and you're not going to be able to hold it. And you have to practice being able to come up to the edge and pull back from the edge. And that's where you're learning the breath, the squeeze, and the thrust that are the 3 moves of the technique.